man ko jen jira budeng na leno bore mo ina kanyi mutot yete pod jabe jawne ti ki madong dubi jur mar wakel ga ban momba ter program manu gite go kelan nguri bare ko jen jiri anu cel jamene beyo jamme be cel ga kor mana man di mono poto to ko jen nyen diso ngada to ne mal ke to ena ban amen.
In our community wrote a book about our history. Jacob been doing a lot of great work. He's been working in the medical field, and sometimes when you see Jacob on Facebook, he has 2 Facebook accounts. One is he's participating in politics in Ethiopia. One is he's unspoken out here with everything happening in the community. But he's another Facebook. You see him, that guy with stethoscope, and he goes everywhere, and then he go to the doctor. He talked to everyone. He drew blood out of you. He checked in the lab. So Jacob is everywhere basically. So to see a man like this wearing so many hats, so we should be proud of him. So can you and also Jacob could have not do all these things without one and only his beautiful wife, Deborah, or Dee. Can we shout out for her? And also his family. Jacob, he has a very strong support from his parents. So they keep him in the house for almost how many years? 8 years, rent-free. He's not paying anything. I don't pay anything as he attending his school and everything. So can you shout out for his parents here? And on top of that, Jacob's brother also is a pilot. He will be becoming a pilot soon. So this family is moving in the right direction. So now I would like to welcome Jacob Omar, the author, the man, the legend, the everything, to give us his 10-minute speech. I will be timing, and now we can welcome Jacob Omar. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you very much, Obala. I don't think I'm all of that, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. So it's not going to take 10 minutes. It's going to be short. So first I want to say thank you to God for the health and everything. To be here today, if it is not because of him, almost all of us won't be here. So we give praise to God for that. And also I want to thank everyone who made it today. And I want to thank Obala for all this beautiful thing that you see here. That is his work. So can we clap our hands for him? Yeah, he's a very supportive friend. He's a brother. He's a lot of things. He's a role model. He's a politician. So he's so many things. So he's been a good brother to me. We go to places together. We do things together. So I really appreciate you, brother, for all that you do, and your family, and your beautiful wife and the kids. I really appreciate all that you do. So let us clap our hand for him again. And also I want to thank the owner of this place. This is, all this beautiful thing that you see here is owned by someone who is among us today. So yes. That's so this is a new place that she opened. I also would encourage anyone out there to support this place and support the owner of this place. You could come in here, buy anything that you want. All the collection of the books are amazing. So that is something that, when you go out, just tell your friends to come and check it out. So it's a beautiful place. And also I want to thank the Akana leader for reaching out to people and the youth leaders, they're here today. They actually came here very early. So let us give thanks for them. Yeah. Thank you, guys. All the things that you do, that's a good hope for the Anywaa community, not only here in the U.S., but in the entire world. So what you do here, one way or another, it will impact all our people globally. So thank you for all the good work that you do. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this book. I know I'm gonna mention part of it throughout the discussion later today, but one of the things that I want to mention about the book is that this book wouldn't be here today without the contribution of so many people. There are people that contributed, with their time and with their knowledge, with their resources, and also, some of them are here, some of them are in Ethiopia, some of them are survivors, some of them, they have, very traumatic events that happened in their life, and they were open to share about their experiences. So I want to say thank you to them, and as a thank you, I don't know, most of them are not here yet, but I brought them some copy of the book for those who are here in the US, but there are some that are, in Ethiopia, and I also brought some books for them, and if God says that I visit Ethiopia, so I will give it to them in person. So let us put our hands together for those people, please. And yeah, so this would have been the time, to give them the book and to call out their name in front of you and give them the book. But because they're not here, I'm just gonna say their name, and then when they come later, I will give it to them. Okay? The first book that I'm gonna give is gonna go to Commander Menelik. So if you don't know Menelik, he's one of he's one of our I don't know, heroes. Someone who contributed a lot and sacrificed their life for the Anywaa people, especially when the genocide happened. He does a lot. He did a lot to make sure that a lot of Anywaa survived the genocide. So this is gonna go to him. So he's not here, but he's in Ethiopia. And the other one is also a eyewitness, very respected person. His name is Commander Bare. So it's a wonderful story. So this book is gonna go to him. He's also in Ethiopia. And this one is so this one is for one of the most active person out here that has been, spreading, information whenever something happened in Gambela, whenever something happened anywhere about the Anywaa people, he comes out and speak out, make sure that our voice is heard. So his name is reporter Aguagilo. He's not here, but he's Canada, so can we clap our hands for him? The other person is, he was the president during the genocide in Gambela, so he has witnessed a lot of things that was happening in the government, what happened in December 13, and what happened in December 14, what happened in December 15. For the next 5 months, what was happening in Gambela, he has a lot of knowledge about it because he was in the government, he was a survivor, and he would have been killed if he did not escape the region. So his name is Okela Kwai. And the other person is one of our elders here that live here in Rochester. He grew up in Gambela. He grew up in the Gambela, so he knows a lot about the Gambela politics. And he also grew up in a place that is now taken by the Nuer people. But when he grew up there, he had experience, what was the life like back then before the Nuer invaded the area. But now his area is overtaken by the other people. A lot of people that are there were displaced. Some of them are assimilated, some of them killed. So he shared a lot about his experience. His name is Mr. Urono Chala. So and the other person, he also grew up in Gambela. He has a lot of knowledge about the TPLF because he grew up in the area. The things that happened in the Gambela regions, he was a high witness to them. So his name is Mr. Wille Gilo Lumsen. He's also here in Minnesota. The other person is a guy who left this country to go back home and invest in the country, in the region. Also, he was one of the people who started the movement, Dandim, which brought an end to one of the most corrupt leadership in the area. During that leadership, a lot of the Anywaa people were killed, a lot of people were jailed, a lot of young people were murdered in prison, imagine, in the government facility. So he organized the young people, and that government was overthrown because of his work. His name is Dr. Manu Chala, so he's in Gambela. And the last one is a young man who was in prison at that time when the young people were selected because of their ethnicity, and they were killed in the Gambela prison while the government forces are around. He was a survivor, and he's in Gambela, and his name is Mr. Awinya Nigelo. So I mentioned their names because a lot of them went through a lot of things. A lot of the things that they went through is most of the things that almost all the Anywaa here who migrated here experienced. So without their effort and their contribution, we wouldn't have this book that we have today. But because they were open to share about their experience, even though it was some traumatic event for them, we have the books today. So I want to say thank you to them, those who are here and those who were not able to make it. But yeah, I'm very sure some of them are gonna come later today. So that is that. And what I want to close with is that everyone that decided to come today and witness this book launch and share this happiness. I want to say thank you, for all you did. All the gas is expensive nowadays, but thank you for sacrificing your time and come here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you. Can we give a round of applause to Jacob again? I can see the president of Akana is coming in. Can we stand up, please? Can we stand up and welcome the president? Can we stand up, please? Give a round of applause. The president of Akana is coming in. Thank you, thank you. You can sit there. Thank you, thank you. You can sit down now. Thank you, thank you. Yep, thank you. When the president come in, so the Akana team just missed the introduction, the speech that they were really. Jacob was just highlighting the people who have shown contribution to the book, who have shared their knowledge, also who are contributing about this, everything that he has interviewed, the people that has interviewed throughout the book. They are getting our best side So I should sit this way. Jacob, is that your best side? This will be on YouTube. You know it, right? It will be on YouTube, and people in Gambela will watch. So make sure you're sitting in your best side. Okay. All those scars on the other side, you have to turn this way. Okay, welcome to book launching. Today, we are going to summarize with the author Jacob Omot on his book, Anywaa, the Luo of Western Ethiopia. This book, Jacob took a lot of work to travel to Ethiopia, interviewing people, and also making sure that he is writing the book based on Anywaa perspective. Because for so long, our history has been written by foreign, especially those who travel from European, those who travel from America here, and they go back there, they interview people, and sometimes the word may not be translated the way it's supposed to be, because back then in Ethiopia, education was not given to us. So when you see throughout all those books being written by those authors like anthropologists, Kwatakora, or all those missionaries who have traveled to Ethiopia or South Sudan about Anywaa history, they have to stay back there in Ethiopia for so long, also living there to understand the language, so that when they come back here for their research, they at least know some word in Anywaa language. So that's why it's kind of very difficult back then to write a book about our history. But they took their time. And now we have our educated young authors, those who take their time, they have the knowledge, they have the degree, and now education in Ethiopia is not as bad as it used to be. In Gambela now we have at least a university in Gambela. It used to be, when they started, it goes from first grade to third grade, and then from third grade to sixth grade. But now we have a university in Gambela. So that's a big change back home. So I'm just giving you a background of history, where we come from and where we are here. And for most of you who were born in America and you haven't visited back home, the reality back home, sometimes when you go and visit and see how the struggle our people go through and come back here, you will be astonished to see that everything that our people go through back in Gambela. Some of the kids, they may not even have a book to read. Me growing up in Ethiopia, I did not have a children's book, And when as Jacob said, when he was talking about children's book, the only book that we know in our language is the Bible, the New Testament. So all other book is written in Amharic and also in other languages. So basically, we are being taught more about other cultures in Gambela in the book than our very own culture. So we have to be grateful that we are in America, a place that gives us opportunity to go to school and have more knowledge about our own history. So now, my first question will go to Jacob, and then before I ask that question, I want to give the mic to my moderator to say a few words. Baba Jokamer.
Thank you, Obala, for the introduction. This has been overdue, because I feel like we failed, especially the older generation. And I'm so excited for a young man like him to come at least give us something like this, produce this. So I am so happy. That's why I was the first one to be here at 11 a.m. I can't wait. I can't wait, yeah. So I'm so excited about us doing our own thing or writing our own history, because usually those who are educated are the ones to write their history. Even though we have been through education for over 20 years now, I believe, or even more, we really did not take time to concentrate. So right now, Nothing to say. Thank you. I hope this is not the first one. Okay? I hope this is the beginning of a big, big, big thing, especially either from Jacob or from any of you. We want us to write history. We failed you young people, but I think you guys are correcting and leading us to the right direction. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Baba Jokamer. So, Jacob, we'll pass it on to you. And the first question, what motivates you to write this book?
Yeah, I think most of you already just painted a good picture of it. So when you look at the community that we live in, the Anywaa community specifically, we really don't have a lot of writers. And I think maybe because we really are not into books as a community or as a society. And not that many people in our society also read books. I think that is what I've learned growing up. And also when I came to the US here, it's just something that we are not into. We consider it as something that we see in school, and after that we go home, we really don't value it. So on my last year at the University of Minnesota, I decided to go home and visit. And when I visited Ethiopia, every time I go home, I want to make sure that, I spend too much time walking and spend too much time, listening to people and going to places like a hospital and see, the things that are going on in there. And every time when I come back here, I come back here sad. I came back here unhappy because the thing that I see there, the community and the living standard is not what I expected to be. Because when I go, I don't only visit Gambela, I go to other part of Ethiopia. And the thing that I see in other regions of Ethiopia and the thing that I see in Gambela are very different. In Gambela, like most of you mentioned here, we don't have children books. Children books, the one that you see are either written in Amharic or in Tigrinya or in Oromia, but you don't see anything written in the Anywaa language. And most of the books that are available, like you said, are the Bibles and the books that they teach in the government school, but those are not suitable for children who are starting to learn to read and write, because a lot of words, but children love pictures. Children love to see illustration. So those are the things that are not really available for our people, and most of our people struggle. They struggle in school. When they go to high school, they don't pass the government exam for university. So adding to that, so having that as one of the disadvantages that we have in Ethiopia, we also don't have our history books, And most of the time when I go to Addis, to places where you see a lot of light-skinned Ethiopian, the majority light-skinned Ethiopian is mostly in Addis Ababa. When you get out of Gambela, you get insulted, called names that you really don't experience here in the US. You get called Baria, which is a slave. When you translate it in English, you get called Lama. You get called charcoal just because you have a darker skin. You get called monkey just because you have a darker skin. But these are coming from black folks who have light skin. They think that they're better than those who are darker. And they don't treat the Anywaa people, especially if you're darker skin, as Ethiopian, as equal as them, because they think, we, the light skin, we are the real Ethiopians, we created Ethiopia, but the darker people, we are considered as maybe, I don't think it's a second-class citizen, maybe it's like third class. And we are not considered as human beings, to be honest. So I had those kind of questions in my mind, you know, why are they calling us a slave in our home country? What are they discriminating against us? Why are they, you know, treating us in this way in a country that we call home? A country that our people died for, our people fought in many battles, our people sacrificed their life, but we are still treated this way. Why? So I started to dig down, learn the history, and dig out most of the thing. You know, where is this hatred coming from? Where is this perspective coming from? So as I searched and quest for this information, I was like, you know, it is a good to write a book. So I put that together and asked our elders, you know, did a lot of research, read a lot of books, and that is how I came to write this book. So when you read it and you see a lot of darkness, a lot of things that are happening in the book, just know that I'm coming from that perspective. Why are this happening to our people, but we live in a country that we consider our country, and we are treated this way?
Thank you, Jacob. I just want to say, this book, as you read through it, there are some pages that will traumatize you, especially going back, like how Jacob mentioned how we are. But before I transition to Baba Jokamer to ask his first question, so the main thing about this book, as you guys can see on the flyer, Jacob wrote it, is a call for justice, accountability, healing, and reconciliation. So we as Anewaa people, our history, we are trying to document this history, and as the Ethiopian government, and also South Sudan government, that for most of us who are in, because we live in the border of Ethiopia and also South Sudan. So basically, we have contributed on both sides. So this book is not only speaking about the Anewaa in Ethiopia, and also it's also speaking about the Anewaa in South Sudan. So as Jacob mentioned, read it and don't just glance through it, ask questions, and this will not be the first time. So I will give it to Baba Jokamer for his first question.
Thank you, Bala. And the book writes mostly is about three governments in Ethiopia: Haile Selassie, and Derg, and then TPLF. So there are three governments that when I kind of browsed through it, and by the way, I didn't read the whole thing, so just no time for that. So, but since I grew up in the second government, I'm just curious to know, what do you think are the consequences of the destruction of the Anewaa, the so-called Koji culture or harmful cultural traditions in Ethiopia, especially in the second government, the so-called the Derg? So what were the consequences, and how are those things or activities or actions by the government impacted the culture in general from that time up to present? If you can elaborate on that, thank you.
Yeah, so when the Derg government overthrew King Haile Selassie, or Emperor Haile Selassie, so Emperor Haile Selassie was the last king that ruled Ethiopia. Then before he was overthrown by the Derg government. So when the Derg government come to power, what they wanted to do is that they wanted to replace the kingship, or the leadership,
the chiefdom,
the monarchy leadership that ruled Ethiopia other than, and replace it with the socialist government.
Right.
So when you look at Ethiopia, there are places that were ruled by kings or chiefs. And specifically when you come to Gambela, Gambela kingdom, I would say that is the Gambela kingdoms, because there are a lot of kings in Gambela. That became a target for the Derg government, because they're coming to replace this monarchy system with a socialist system. So they had to get rid of the Anewaa traditional leadership, which was the kingdomship and the chiefdom. So that is, I would say that is one of the things that they did that this pretty much weakened the Anywaa as a people. Because the Anywaa people, they have been ruling themselves using this system for generations. You know, they had kings, mostly if you go toward the Lul areas, and there are chiefs when you go around by the, you know, mostly by the Baro River, which is the Openo, the people that live in that bank of the river. So the Derg government basically destroyed the title and appointed those people as just mostly for us today is like pretty much, you know, the leader of Kabale, or someone that Balabat, that's what they call it in Amharic, which is, it's nothing from a king to Balabat, or from a chief of the entire area to, you know, to be brought to that. Basically, they are the agents. They were made as the agents of the Derg government.
Were they supported by the people? They were supposed to be kind of lead. Were they supported, or was there any opposition from the Balabat or this kind of?
Well, that is one of the things that when I was writing the book, because there are some people that supported the destruction of this leadership in the Anywaa, but there are some people that oppose it, especially those that wanted, because when you look at the historical leadership, the kings is only goes by a line. So you cannot be a king if you're not born in that line, you know, which is the Onyich. So the Onyich basically is the clan that only all the kings coming from that area. So if I'm a father, I die, my son will be the next king. So it doesn't get out of that line. So for people who are not from that area, from that line, but they want to have a power and also, you know, share the same control, you know, have a higher position or so, that become an advantage for them that the Derg government would use, you know, against those who are from that line. Okay, but I would say that one of the bigger things that the Derg did is to destroy the leadership and then replace those leadership with people who are loyal to the Derg government. That has destroyed the Anywaa people. But there are some few things that the Derg did that I would say they are positive, especially when it comes to early marriage. So the early marriage and the first, in our language we call it biel. So biel is when you force a young lady into a marriage that is, you know, against their will. They don't want, but because, you know, they want money, or they want what we call demui. They give a young lady to a rich parent, a rich family, so that, you know, they will get married there and then get the demui, which is what the Derg government,
which is against the will of the
lady,
girl. Yeah.
The lady. So that tradition was, you know, the Derg was against it. And also there is another tradition that's called nak. So nak, when you remove the lower teeth for a younger lady, for us then maybe we consider it as a part of beauty, but it was not a good practice. So that was also made as illegal. And then otak is like a punishment that you, you know, otak is a punishment that you give a, you know, if someone committed adultery, or someone you know, get someone pregnant but that they deny the child, they will get that punishment. They put their legs together and then have two big wood around and then squish it together. So that is otak. So it was
so those are the cultural elements that were supposed to be harmful. They were supposed to be destroyed by the Derg. Otak is very bad. Daim patch abro nyoman beregere. No, very choke up tini.
Yeah, those are. I think those are some of the army, the things that the Derg government considers armful, but they were good. But when it comes to the leadership, which is the center core of the Anywaa people, by destroying that, the Anywaa people become like a people with no leaders. So anyone can do what they want. There is no king to fear. There is no chief to fear. So the Anywaa are not familiar with the socialist government leadership. So that basically destroyed the Anywaa system that they use to to guide themselves and lead themselves.
Which is close to 40, 50 years from now?
Yes.
That's okay. So basically, yeah, the impact is huge. Generation.
It becomes generational.
Well, thank you, Baba Jokamir. Jacob, you highlight so many things in the book. And also, I just want to summarize for those who are just attending now, we are in a panel discussion whereby moderator, we have Baba Jokamir and I going through the book, asking Jacob about some key questions, especially in the book. So we will continue through this session in the next few minutes. And then after that, we will transition to another part. But we still have more time for panel discussion. So I just want to highlight, because Jacob talked about positive things that the government some government of Ethiopia that bring into our in our life. But when it comes to Dergi regime, as you mentioned in the book, they actually did more harm to our people. Because the biggest thing, as we grew up in Gambela and also some part of South Sudan, Anewaa been leading through kingship and also chiefdom. And those are the biggest thing. And I think the main reason, as I was going through your book, you mentioned that in Ethiopia we have other different ethnicity. You know, we have in Gambela itself, we have Anewaa, we have people from Komo, we have Opur, we have other people in that region. And through that slavery, even though slavery was not talked about in Ethiopia, there was slavery that was going on. But the reason why Anewaa was not being slave through that generation is because the leadership itself of kingship. Because when the enemy will come to attack the Anewaa people, they will retaliate or going and resist through those through those fights. I want you to walk us through what was the main tactic that keep Anewaa strong before all this kingship and chiefdom being destroyed. I want us to take us through that.
Yeah, so we jump from two things. So in the book, I did in more detail talk about what the Anewaa kingdoms was, during the Menelik, the King Menelik. So King Menelik is the king of Ethiopia. At that time, there was no Ethiopia. It was a king in the northern part of Ethiopia that wanted to create the modern Ethiopia that we have today. So what King Menelik did is that to create the Ethiopia that we have today, he has to invade other territories that are around the Ethiopia, that is around the Aksum kingdom. So what he did is that he expanded his territory. He expanded to the Oromo region, he expanded to the Anewaa kingdom, and also made a deal with the British to cut the Anewaa kingdom into two. So I think there are more detail of that in the book, but I think that the main important thing that we need to take is that even though the Anewaa kingdom was cut into two by the British and King Menelik, the Anewaa people maintain their autonomy. So they still control their territories, they still control their areas because of the two systems that we just talked about, the kingdomship and the chiefdom. What made them strong is that these two political systems in the Anewaa leadership, they were so organized that if you compare it to the modern government system that we have today is very similar. But back then there were no education. And I was so surprised and I was so shocked how organized they were, because they have the Ministry of Military, they have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they have the Ministry of this, the Ministry of this, the Ministry. They were so organized that everyone within their leadership, they managed it very well. So the Ministry of Military, when there is an invasion that is coming, or let us say the Amara, because at that time there were the Amara slave raiders that come and raid the area, take people as a slave, take them to the north, and there was a selling going on with the Arabs countries, which is they come invade, these people, take them as a slave. Most of them, they are forced to work, in the farm of those rich in the northern area, or some of them in the Addis Ababa, which is now the capital city of Ethiopia. Some of them are working in the houses, some of them are, keeping the sheep and the cattle, so forth. So the Anywaa people were able to fight back. So when there is an invasion, they fight back. Because at that time, they already had weapons, which they got from the Oromo neighbors that they were bordering with. So I would say that the leadership prevents the Anywaa people from these slave raiders, especially those who are coming from the north. So the leadership made them strong. The kingdomship and the chiefdomship.
Thank you, Jacob. Again, for those who are coming, we are in through panel discussion. To have a book is $30. So before you hand out your hand and grab a book, is $30. Bung much. That is Kedanwa. Bogor Batito, Kore, that is Kedanwa. In English, we don't have word for that. So I just want to keep you guys engaged. Jacob is going through his book, and this book is not a book that you want to read overnight and just put it there. I want you to keep it next to your Bible. As you read your Bible, have this book next to it, because this is talking more about our history, about our current situation in Ethiopia, our current situation in part of South Sudan, and also it gives us a glimpse of how grateful we are to be in this great nation called America, and also part of Europe, that we have this kind of education that we can go back and do our very own research. So in this book, we have some people who live here in Minnesota who have been acknowledged through this book, and also they contribute through this book. We want you to grab one and pay $30. As I said, yesterday was $25 in Austin, but after 11:39, the price went up because Rochester is too expensive and gas price went up. Again, in our audience today, we have the leadership of Akane, who they guide us through Minnesota here. We have the president of Akane. Can we shout out to the president? In the audience too, we have leadership of Anywaa youth leaders. So can we shout out to them too, please? Shout out to them. And also, we are in our audience too, we have some of our church leaders. We have Pastor, our very own Pastor Baba Jacob. Can we shout out to him? And going back to the book, I just wanna look at the camera and ask this question, because Jacob talked about in the book. There are so many words that Anywaa fought during their life, especially until today. There we have some of the great enemies that has been trying to eliminate the Anywaa people, and we still can see it through today that you cannot walk across the villages in Anywaa without someone coming, shot you or harm you, because those things were not there before when we used to have those our kingdom leadership and also chiefdom. But because with the modern leadership in Ethiopia, it's kind of our community has been distracted, and also we have so many refugees that in Ethiopia itself, I'm not against a refugee because I came to America as a refugee, but the Ethiopian government has brought up a new tactic that the only way to get rid of Anywaa, we have to make them fight against other people, which is the Nuer people. So they bring so many Nuer people in Gambela region from South Sudan, and they're living there for centuries. Sudan gained independence, they did not go back, and now those Nuer citizens themselves, they become a citizen in Ethiopia, and now they are part of the leadership. And that has been the biggest destruction in our life in Ethiopia. So Jacob talked about it, the assimilation of Nuer into the Anywaa community, and also he talked about how the Murle from South Sudan part. So Jacob highlighted all those enemies that have been trying to take over our land. So I want Jacob to go through about the biggest challenge that Anywaa faced during those government in Ethiopia, from Menelik, from King Haile Selassie, and to the current government. What was the biggest disadvantage of refugee being brought to the Anywaa land?
Well, the refugees, they just came recently. It's not a long time ago. They came just during the Derg government. So, but before that, you know, in the book I went through it in details. There was no refugees in Gambela, and also you don't see anywhere people. Most of the refugees, when the war took place, the civil war, the first civil war took place in the 1950s in Sudan. Back then there was no South Sudan. The refugees that came are the people that live in South Sudan. That include some part of the Anywaa kingdoms that were in that area, which face a lot of challenges from the Arabs. Some of them came to, you know, to the other areas, you know, to survive that. But that was used by other people as a way to encourage to invade the Anywaa land. For example, there were the Dinka that came, there were the Equatorial people that came, there are the Shilluk people that came. You know, there are a lot of different ethnicity from Sudan that came to Ethiopia as refugees. But when the war was over, they went back, you know, to their country, which is now considered as South Sudan. But the one tribe that did not went back is the Nuer. You know, even before 1940s, you cannot find any Nuer in Gambela area. When they come from their country, they cross the border, they sell their cattle, you know, the goats or the cows, and then they buy salt, they go back. But also when they came to the Anywaa lands, they asked the chiefs of the areas. Most of those areas are in by the Openo or the Baro Bank. They asked the chief to come, you know, with their cattle, because these people are nomadic. So they use the pastoralists. They use the animal, you know, to sustain themselves and also, like, you know, as their economy. So they have a lot of cattle. So for a cattle to survive, it has to have a water. There has to be a grassland, you know, that they could graze on. So the Anywaa, because the Anywaa people, most of them live by the rivers, their lands become a target for these people, you know, because during the dry season, these areas are very fertile. There's a green grass, there's a water, there's rivers, you know. It's very suitable for the animals. So they come and they ask the chief, and then they settle there during the dry season. And once that is over, they go back to the area, which is way all deep into Sudan. They don't even border with the Anywaa people. But as the time goes by, they started creating relationships. They started coming in big number. And once they exceed the local population, they kill those people and then they stay permanently. Those Anywaa who wanted to stay and not, you know, leave their ancestral land, they will be assimilated. And then they go on. They go to another area. They make good relationship with those people. But as the number increases, once they exceed the local population, they kill them. Some of the Anywaa who survive, they run, and then they assimilate the others that stays. So this is something that is repeating until they get to what we call today as Gambela. That was just during the Derg government. When the civil war took place in Sudan, in the international community, because they care about the humanity, they wanted these refugees to have a safe place. What they did is that they said, okay, there's a big land, open land in Gambela. Why don't we bring these refugees into the area so that they could live here and survive and escape the violence that is happening in the Sudan, because the Arabs are killing them. They're murdering children. They're killing, all the Nilotic people, those who are dark skinned. So they have been displaced. So, but when they came to Gambela, the Derg government made agreement with them and made them, bring them to power. And then they came up with what they call the urban refugees, which is Gambela town was actually at that time.
It's not urban.
But they call it urban because it's better than other areas. So based on that, they brought refugees and they brought to the center of Gambela, and they named that place a new land because that's a new land for them. So that is how the Nuer people get to come to Gambela area, and now they settle there. They say, now we are Ethiopian, now we have a big population, we are the majority, this is our land. So this has been going on, and the government of Ethiopia, because they gain a lot of benefits from these refugees, from the international community, they use the refugees against the local population, also for their political agendas and purpose. But in the book, I went in detail. That's just a surface of it.
Thank you, Jacob. I'll give it to Robert Jokamir to ask another question.
I think I'm just going to have you repeat or maybe elaborate a little bit. We, most of us here, not the young people who are born in this country, but we were in the camp in Kenya as refugees. And our experiences there is you don't touch a Kenyan animal or a Kenyan tree. So compared to Ethiopia, what freedom do they have as refugees under the UN Charter? Are they allowed to have guns or go and raid a village or occupy, and the government does not do anything in any country in the world but Ethiopia? Just elaborate on that.
That's actually a good question, and it's also one of the things that really challenged me personally when I was doing the research about it and asking questions. Because when you look at other countries, they obey the international law. They follow the international refugees law. Refugees, they stay as refugees. They don't get involved in any local politics, anything that happens there. Because, they are there to survive, and the country has to take care of them. That's a must, because they're human beings. They're just women with children. They're people who are fleeing, of course, like a bad thing that's happening. So, but when you come to Gambela, I think what made Gambela issue different is that, the government of Ethiopia has its own interests. And this interest that they have is to make sure that they use the refugees to eliminate the local people so that the government, could lease the land to the foreign investors and so forth. So during the Derg government, I would say that Gambela was pretty much controlled by the refugees, because the local people have no say in what is going on. So the Derg government collaborated with the refugees to control the area, and that is also to benefit the Derg government, because at that time the TPLF and the Eritrean forces, rebel forces, were fighting against the Mengistu government. So they were supported by the Sudan government. So because they were supported by the Sudan government, now the Derg want to support the rebels in Gambela, which are the refugees, to fight the Sudan government. So they were using the rebels, But in the Sudan side, the Sudan was using the Ethiopian rebels and the Eritrean rebels against the Derg. So that is how Gambela become under control of
we are
Derg,
collateral.
basically. So now
Got it.
you have like a lot of people talking, oh, you know, my uncle was, you know, the leader in this area, you know, we the Nuer were in this position, in this. But they were used by the Derg government basically against the TPLF and the Eritrean forces that are fighting against the guys. So, but the people who are in the middle that suffered a lot were the Anywaa people because they had no say. You know, the rebel will come, they will raid the farms, take all the food, they will say anything because they have no weapon. They had no weapons. They can protect themselves. And they could come, force some old people to carry their ammunition for them, you know, for miles and miles, and they wouldn't say anything. They basically control the area. They would come, rape women, they will kill people. No government is coming to save the Anywaa people. And the Anywaa cannot defend themselves because they had no weapons. So the refugees pretty much control the area, and that is the time when a lot of refugees control and displace the Anywaa people from the area. Because, I mean, why would you stay in a place that you could get killed in, but no government to save you? Why would you stay there? So a lot of people, they take their kids and they run away. So a lot of the land were taken by the Nuer and the refugees in that case because they were used by the government.
Then that was during the Derg regime because the Derg was using the SPLA to fight the TPLF who are fighting them, right?
Exactly.
So how has the current government used refugee, I would say, to fulfill whatever mission they have? Because Anywaa seems to be a collateral as well. What is their motivation in the current regime? I understand, according to the book, that was the motivation. There was, well, the enemy of your enemy is your friend, right? Exactly. So now, but now, what about now? What are they using the refugee for? What is the purpose now? What was the purpose, or maybe after the fall of the Derg regime? What is now the mission of eliminating or Anywaa being used as a collateral damage for that?
So during the TPLF, I think that is where the most destructions happened to the Anywaa people. Because first, the Anywaa people were friends with the TPLF when they came in 1991. But after, you know, the disagreement with the GPLM group, what happened is that, you know, the government now want to use the Nuer again against the Anywaa people, and they label the Anywaa people with some names, like they named Shipta. Shipta is basically a rebel, someone who rebel against the government. So, as of now, Gambela, as the largest, you know, hosts the largest refugees, you know, in Ethiopia. And not only that, Gambela is the only region in Ethiopia where the number of refugees exceeds the local population. So you have more refugees than the people that live there locally. It's basically like in the US, you know, let us say Minnesota. In Minnesota now you have like, the population of refugees is higher than the local Minnesotan. So that is what happened and what is happening in Gambela right now. So why did the TPLF use the refugees against the Anywaa people? That's a good question. You have to ask, like, why did the TPLF commit genocide to the Anywaa people? They committed the genocide, and they thought that the world is going to stay quiet because this is just a little population. We could eliminate them, nobody talk about it, and then we could give their land to the foreign investors. We could get the gold in their land. We could get the oil in their land. We could use their fertile land, you know, to farm. So that was their, you know, their motivation. Because if the Anywaa are there, they cannot go and just exploit the resources as they want. So the Anywaa has to go first, so that they will be able to easily go in and get the gold, get the oil, lend the land, lease the land to the foreign investor, and get the income, get dollars income to Ethiopia. So now they know that if they take the Annual people as a government, the world will react and there will be sanctions against the government of Ethiopia. So the easy way to do it is that to use the local refugees, because the refugees has a higher number than the local people. So why not arm them? Why not use them to fight the Annual people? And when some news goes out there, we will say, oh, this is just a local fight between two tribes. It's just a tribal conflict. But in fact, it's not a tribal conflict. It's the government using the refugees to kill the local people so that they could use the land, the resources as they want. So that is the motive.
I read a little bit about disarmament, that the New York's guns were taken away. TPLF, I believe before 2002, they were a little bit, they were not extreme, right? After 2002, the European calendar, that's where I heard, I was not in the country, that's when I heard that there was, the guns were taken away from the farmers. Now farmers were they were like, they were doing, there's nothing they could do. So they became vulnerable to attacks from all sides, from Murle, from Nuer, from others. So when this disarmament took place, was it only the Anuak only were disarmed, then leaving the refugees or the Nuer people armed? And is that what is going on? How did it take place? For maybe those who were there, they can say something more. But I'm just curious because Anuak were disarmed, and when there is a fight, it's not a equal fight. Anuak barely fight with nothing, while others have the latest machineries you can find.
Yeah.
So, were the Anuak only ones who were disarmed? That's really my question.
Yeah. So I think that is during the president, former president Miguel. So I think that what happened is that the context and situation that was happening, I think there are so many people here that maybe they have witnessed that. When there was a conflict in the Itang area between the Anuak and the South Sudanese refugees that permanently settled there, the fight was going on for a long time. The president of Gambela at that time said, "This is out of my control." Asked the federal government to intervene, but because the refugees had upper hands, they didn't want to, involve. They want the refugees to keep killing the farmers, the vulnerable people, without sending their forces there to protect the civilians. So the government went radically. I mean, the president, because the president was Anuak by ethnicity at that time. What he wanted to do is like he hosts a meeting with the Anuak elites in the area. So that was considered by the government of Ethiopia as a radical move, and those people were put in jail, including the president of Gambela. They were put in jail. And because of that, a lot of Anuak policemen were put in jail. People were disarmed. Mostly, the target were not everyone. The target were the Anuak. How could we disarm this? They accused the Anuak people of inciting violence, but they're the ones who are victims. So their weapons were taken away from them. They were fired. A lot of farmers, a lot of people, they were disarmed, and that's what followed with the genocide. So you could see that this is a premeditated or pre-planned action to make the Anuak people vulnerable first, and then when we carry out the genocide, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. So that is, I think that is what happened. But in the book, I put it more like in details, but the situation is that, it's not just disarming everyone. The target were the Anywaa people, the target were the Anywaa police, and then later on it was followed by genocide. And the Anywaa were helpless. They couldn't defend themselves because they were disarmed before that.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Robert Jocomel. That's a great question. As we continue, those who are joining us, the seat is limited. I think if you see your left and right, if you still have one space, please let us know. But once every seat is occupied, we will close the door, and then we will say to the people who are coming late, we are sorry. So basically, this is teaching us that when we come to America, we have to adapt to different cultures. So because growing up in a refugee camp, Anywaa, when they go to appointment, they go early to an event that they know is important to them. So those who came early, they know this event is important to you. But one thing that I learned in the refugees will not be late to any refugee appointment. Especially if their name is being selected for medical or anything. They will go there 5 hours early so that they don't miss the bus. So if you are part of that, refugees say, hey, hey, Win. You see now? You see? I remember when in 2008, they fixed our name and they're like, hey, you guys are there for interview. Just interview, It wasn't anything. Just for the UNHCR to say that, hey, your name fixed. My mom told us we have to go there very early in the morning. Early in the morning, 4 a.m., we are up. And the refugee, the interview people, the UNHCR, they did not show up until 10 a.m. in the morning. So we were waiting there all this time. All the snacks were done, all the food. Everyone was like, I'm hungry, I want to go back. And my mom would look you with those African eyes. Are you hungry? Do you want to go to America? And I asked my mom, we don't even know if we are going to America. This is just interview. She's like, trust God. So we are here now in America, so don't be late. So if you're late, we will close the door. Again, we're still in panel discussion. I saw some of you has already picked the book, so I will give chance to the audience. If you have like a few questions or something, we'll give a chance. You can write it down. We have the mic up here, and then, or you can raise your hand, and then you can shout out your question, or if you have something to for Jacob to clarify. But again, thank you. We really appreciate you guys. I want to divert your attention to chapter 4 in the book. Jacob talked about the American missionaries to the Anywaa people, because those are the people that open our eye, because education is the key to everything. Because if I go back, if not because of the missionaries, those who came to the Anywaa land, we could not be in a place like this today. I just want Jacob, because Jacob grew up in a Christian family, and his dad being the pastor, and also the translation of the documentary of Jesus was being done. His dad was part of that. I want Jacob to take us through that journey, the most impactful of the missionaries in Anywaa land.
Yeah, I think missionary people are the people that the Anywaa people will not forget about, because without them, I think we wouldn't be here today. And without them, I think a lot of opportunity would have not, get into, in our community. So the mission, I think one of the things, the most important thing that they did, back then, because in the book I focus on two main important things. Of course, the Christianity, they brought the Christianity. And also, the two important things that they brought with them was the healthcare, which is medicine, and then the education. And the places that they started in Akobo, which is the Sudan part at that time. So those Anywaa who were in that side, they were exposed to education for the very first time. At that time, Akobo was not mainly populated, by the way. The Nuer were starting to come to the area, but the population was very, very small. The majority at that time were the Anywaa people because that is their land, Kobo. So the missionary who came there, they opened the first school, and they named it, they name it, and then they started teaching the Anywaa people, and they started translating the Bible into the Anywaa language. So in part of the Sudan, they use the Latin letters, which is a modified letters, just regular ABCD, but it was modified where you could see like 2 dots, in some letters that you don't find in English. But it's a lot. They use the Latin in the Sudan side because most of the missionaries were American. But in Gambela area, the Ethiopia part, the Anywaa people were not given any chance at all. There was no chance for education because you could see a lot of when I was doing the research back some of the things that shocked me were that the anthropologists and some people who visited the Anywaa land in the 1800s, some of them the British, what they wrote, some of the writings, some people were saying, these people are born trained. Don't give them education. If you give them education, they will become more powerful than you.
And raise up.
So the Ethiopian leadership, they know that the Ethiopian government at that time, the kingdom, they know that. So Haile Selassie did not give the Anywaa people education. But thanks God to the people like Don McClure, which are one of the very few people who came as a missionary. He started in Sudan. They opened the first school, and then he was like, the majority of the Anywaa people are actually deep into Ethiopia. And at that time, because the war was starting in Sudan, the civil war was starting. All the missionaries were kicked out from the Sudan, and the missionaries were accused of being the enemy of the state because the Arabs, that's the Islam, the Muslim country, they were against this Christianity being introduced into the southern part of Sudan. So they kicked out the missionary. So what the Don McClure did is that he went to Addis Ababa and talked with King Haile Selassie. It's like, there are people here that I'm interested in. I want to teach them Christianity. But in order to do that, I have to translate the Bible because they don't know English. I have to translate the Bible into their language. So would you allow me to translate and also open a school for them? King Haile Selassie said, you can go.
So basically, he tricked the king so that he can give opportunity to the Anywaa people, because he saw that if he goes directly to the Anewaa people or ask that, hey, I want to give those people opportunity to get educated, the king would have rejected that. So using the tradition of the Bible and saying that I want them to be Christian. So because biblically, Ethiopian has been mentioned in the Bible for so many, so that gave him so more pride that, so we have more foreigner now coming to the country, and his name will be glorified. So I think that is amazing.
Yeah, I think that is one of the tactics that Don McClure used, and also, because Ethiopia was predominantly Christian, and the kingdomship is tied with the Orthodox. Ethiopian Orthodox is a Christian, religion. So they fear that the expansion of the Arabs will get to that part of the country, and then the Islam will be introduced in that area. So they were like, if we let these people introduce the Christianity first, then that part of the country would be a Christian. So Don McClure, because also there are some stories that I mentioned in deep details in the book, but what the King Haile Selassie said is that you could go open the school from 1st to 3rd grade. That's the max you could go. Okay, so the first school was through 3rd grade, but that was not enough. because people are not learning. Don McClure went again. I can't do anything because third grade would not allow these people to actually read their Bible properly. I had to increase. And he said, okay, go through sixth grade. And then through sixth grade was open. So at that time, you know, when you finish third grade, you become a teacher, you start teaching again. You know, but then the max becomes sixth grade. And that is how, you know, how the education was introduced to the Anywaa people in Ethiopia side. You know, 2 schools were built, and also, you know, there was a little clinic that was open in Popo. Popo, the name Popo, if you translate it in English, is the village of life. So because the clinic was open there, people now go there, you know, to the clinic so that they could, you know, get back their health. It was named Popo. So there are so many things that happen there, but the main important thing that I said, the missionary brought to the Anywaa people was the education. The education opened their eyes, and also, if you look now, some of the older people in our community, they know how to read the Anywaa Bible in the Amharic letters, the Amharic alphabet. You know, geese, they call the geese. But the younger generation, they read the Latin one. Why is that? I explained it deep in the book, because King Haile Selassie said that, you know, if you want these people to read in their language here in Ethiopia, you have to use geese. So that was forced on King, and the Anywaa was fighting. There was a big fight that took place because the school was shut down by the government. They're like, you have to teach these people in Geese language, not Latin or any other language. And the Anywaa were like, why are you involved? You know, because the Anywaa at that time, they consider themselves as, you know, independent, and they have their own kingdom. Yep. So yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you. In the audience, do we have anyone that has glanced through the book or opened the book, because you don't want your $30 go into waste? And then, because I know some of you will, when they buy this book now, they will go put it in the shelf, and then after 4 months later, they will be like, oh, Jacob wrote this book. This book has been written for you to read, okay? If for those of you, if you need someone, you can buy, and then you can buy one for your kid. They can read it for you. They can translate for you. There's a lot of knowledge here. You know, there's a lot of knowledge because Jacob is not going in every page by page. He's just summarizing the more important. But you have to go in and dive in more, learn for yourself. Is food for thought. So I want you guys to take advantage of this. I can see young leaders of Anywaa Youth, if they have a question, if they open the book, because I see Peter have not opened the book since we started. Or unless he did not buy.
December 13, I think, is the elephant in the room. He wrote, a lot about December 13 as well. I think a lot of you were born after 2003. So I want him to talk a little bit about that and how has that informed his current activism involving politics, in science education, in social, in church. So how has that December 13, and maybe say more about it, about December 13 and how it happened, how it was planned, and so forth, and how has that also informed you or made you who you are today? You just want to do that, say that. Yes. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, thank you everybody. So I want to ask the author, Mr. Jacob. So like my brother mentioned that the December 13 chapter 9. So as I scanned through the book, I did not read it. And there are some names and pictures of the people, which involved in the atrocity that happened on the December 13th. And the current government still exists. And some of the names in this book they are still alive. So in Gambela, so what can you tell us? Do you have any anxiety, fear about that?
There are things that happen, and it just goes by, nobody noticed because somebody out there is scared of documenting it, But when it's come to the Anywaa genocide in Ethiopia, I think that is one thing that really needs to be documented in detail because I think that is one of the incidents that changed the Anywaa people forever. Before December 13th, there were things that happened in Ethiopia, but it's not like a genocide because the Anywaa people, they were organized, they were, defending themselves, they survived. But this genocide, I think, was the first active genocide. Of course, there were silent genocide that were happening before, and even right now, there are silent genocide that is happening. But this one was the first active genocide and that's the reason why all of you, maybe almost all of you, 90-something%, are here in the U.S. as refugees. So, and most of the people who were involved, some of them are still alive today. And if you read this title here, say a call for justice, accountability, healing, and reconciliation. So you don't talk about, reconciliation, you don't talk about, healing, you don't talk about moving forward if there is no justice or if there is no accountability. If you murder 400 people, more than 400 people, just in one day, and you get away with it, then where is justice? Where is accountability? If you murder 6,000 more after that, in the following month, and then you just walk now freely, you eat, you enjoy your life, where is justice? Where is accountability? Thousands of Anywaa people are still suffering in refugees today in different camps in Africa. You have camp in Uganda, you have camp in Kenya, you have camp in Sudan, and a lot of them are suffering there today because of the genocide. But the people who were contributing to this, they are free. There is no justice. So we need to have justice, we need to have accountability in order to move forward. So that is the reason I wrote this book, and I'm not scared of anyone.
Can we clap for that? Can we clap for that? Can we clap for that?
So if you were a player in that genocide, your name is there, and the things that you did. Especially if you were in the government of Ethiopia at that time, the TPLF members, your name is there, and your contribution to the genocide. And the world has to know about it, your grandchildren has to know about it, that you were this evil person. So that has to be documented.
And this is how speaking up is very important because for so many years, Anywaa people have been silent, and for so many years, December 13 memorial is not taking place. We are not allowed to talk about it in Gambela, Ethiopia, and thank God to the recent movement that we were able, you can hide somewhere and talk about December 13 for the generation who were born after December 13, especially those who were born in America here. December 13 has been one of the darkest days in Anewaa history. Our women, our men, especially the educated one, were targeted. Their name has been documented, and then the Ethiopian government going door by door, pulling those people, sorting them in front of everyone, in front of their parent, in front of their sisters, the media. They did not allow it, and the few eyewitnesses that speak up and talk about it, and also those who ran away, and that's why we are here today. So as a young generation, you have I encourage you to learn more. I encourage you to do more research. Why are we being killed on December 13? And as Jacob said, those who committed, especially those who are among Anewaa, their name is in there because the Ethiopian government did not act alone. during the December 13th. We have people that from our own community that who part of influencing those who show the door. So let's say one example, our pastor, Pastor Okwir, who could have known that he's hiding in his house. We have some Anywaa who have told the government that he's there, and he was being killed during that day. So most of our people, our parents, our fathers, died during that day. Some of us play a big role in that genocide, and their names are there. So we have to know about it, and this is no different between what happened during Hutu in Rwanda or during that genocide, and it's not. It's the same thing. What happened to Jewish people too, when they go through a lot of massacre. So now we have education whereby we can talk. We have ICC, the International Court of Law, whereby we can go there and speak up. We have to track those people. Some of them, they're in Minnesota here. We don't have to be afraid because America is a land of opportunity whereby if someone did you wrong, you have to speak up and they will be held accountable. Can we shout out to Jacob again? I know all of you is holding one T on this side, one T on this side. We can put the T down and also clap for her. Good. Yeah, can we clap for her again, please? Good, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, I was just chatting with her, and she says she's from Cameroon. You know, anyone who plays soccer who know anything about Cameroon? Yay, Cameroon. So Samuel Lito used to be one of our biggest fans. In soccer history, he played for Barcelona, and he played for Chelsea. So he's like one of the great African players that put the African people on the map. Yeah, so, you know, when young players talk about soccer in Africa, it's Didier Drogba, Samuel Lito, Kanu Mwankwa from Nigeria, and so many people. So let's shout out for Cameroon, please. Can we get the Cameroon? And if you are Arsenal fan, you win today. And if you are Manchester fan, so we will continue to pray for you guys because winning now is very challenging. So, and Jacob is Man United fan. They're not doing great now. Jacob is doing great for himself, but his team is not doing great. So, how many people from supporting Manchester? The pilot in the building. Can we shout out to the pilot? Pilot, can you get up? Can you stand up, please? There you go, the pilot in the building. That's our very first pilot in Anywaa. Can we please clap for him again? Through his work, he inspires so many young kids, especially those who are here today. Message free to speak up, and this is the time to talk to Jacob directly, because after this, Jacob will be too expensive. So, because if we buy this book, Jacob may move to New York. So, Jacob Amot, we're going to go back to the book, and I will go to chapter, as some of you are looking through. The book is not on the phone. It's still only in a hard copy, so. So, Jacob, going back to the book, I want to bring our attention to the scene you started writing about this book. Especially, you started with a children's book not too long ago, and you inspire so many people around the globe. And recently, you traveled to Italy. May you talk us what was the biggest thing why you went to Italy? Because we saw on Facebook you went with someone that we don't know his name, that you went to Italy. Talk a little bit about what was your trip in Italy, because we heard something. Talk us about that.
Yeah, I actually went there with Obala.
Oh.
Yeah, we went to Italy. So, like you said, I started with children's books. I wrote children's books and also translate over 100 children's books into our language. Those are bilingual books. And I hope that maybe...
Can we clap for that, please? Over 100 books.
Yeah, I think after this, I forgot to bring some copies, so we will have some copies here. So we might have, I have children coming here to read in the future. So, that is a possibility. So one of the books that I wrote was based on the Anywaa folk tales. You know, in our culture, we have a tradition where after the lunch at night, you know, the elders will sit around with the kids, you know. Back home, there is a place called Wimach, maybe like in Wimach, the people that are older now, they know. But also there are some areas, like in Gambela where I grew up, the elders, they will sit down with the children and they will start telling them stories. There are some very interesting stories like Achok. I used to listen to a lot of Achok stories, but now they're disappearing because one of the problems is we don't have them written in words. So what inspired me was like, you know, I want those stories to be written in a good illustrated books where children could see Achok. What Achok is this short? Because when you listen to them, is this short? Is it big? Is it? You don't know. You're just picturing in your head. Yep. Achok and Omari, always.
Yep.
You know. So if we have those turned into books, children books, it will make the reading interesting. It will make children actually like read books because they will like, I want to know what happened to Achok. What happened after this? What does he look like? You know. So when Obala met with Eleanor and he got me involved, and then I translated this book, I was like, let us write our first annual children books, as you know, because one of the very famous stories is Gur and Nyang, which is the Nile perch and the crocodiles. How did the crocodiles, you know, now is it chasing the Nile perch every time it sees? You know, there's the Anywaa folk tales, and I put it into a book, and then now it is translated into more than 7 languages. There's the Portuguese, there's Greek, you know, into Amharic, into Somali, into Tigrayan, into Oromos, into Anuak, into I don't remember some of the French. So it's into different languages now. And people could see the Anuak, you know, darker skin with their traditional clothing, you know. That is a way of, you know, letting other people learn about our culture and language. So that book was nominated for an award, and then we went to Italy, and then I received the certificate, the diploma of the award. I was the youngest person there to be nominated for an award. And I was the only black person there too. For the award. So among 59 countries, I was there to represent Ethiopia, like a darker skin guy.
Shout out to that, shout out to that, shout out to that.
Like, that's the worst thing about Ethiopia. So I was there representing my country. And Anywaa was one of those languages. How many countries in the world?
59.
100 and something. But Anywaa was one of the languages that was nominated there. And I was speaking Anywaa there.
I want to add to that because when they call people up, you know, and Jacob, I told Jacob, hey, when you go there, just know where you come from. And he looked back and I'm like, okay, it's time. So I set the camera, we'll put that on YouTube. So Jacob went up there and he's like, well, my speech is like that. And then I'm like, do something. So he went up there. The first thing he said, Dedu Jot, and then the room went up, whoop, and then I shout from nowhere, whoo, and then everyone now shout, you know. And then he said that in a very big, you know, momentum that, you know, it give everyone in the room a different spirit, you know, for him to greet in his language, because everyone, when they go up there, they're speaking in English. And for the first time, we have few people in that room who have heard the word Derijot in Anywaa. And then we had to translate that. So we had to talk to them. This is our language. So I was so proud when Jacob started with that.
Yeah, it's good that, to be honest with you, no one knows that there is Anywaa ethnic group that exists in this world. but this is a way of showing up. Even though our people are not interested into books, or they don't see it as a very important thing, the world, we still live in in a different side of the world that the current world lives in. Right now, you're being known. If someone could read about you, if someone could read about your culture, if someone could read about your language, then the world will know about you. But if nothing is that written about you, you don't exist.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to show the world that we exist through writing. So that's the reason I went to Italy with you.
Oh, thank you. I was there. Okay, I didn't know I was there. So yeah, this book on Amazon right now in Ethiopia is, last week when I checked, was around number 17 in Ethiopia, the most historical in Ethiopia on Amazon, number 17 when we first launched it. So the more people go on Amazon, Google it. If you type Jacob, his book will pop up, and then children book. Please continue going on Amazon, even if you're not buying something, and look for this book, save it, and then unsave, and then go back again so that it pop up more and read the bio. So that's really amazing. Jacob, when it comes to your regular life, during your daily to-day life, in the morning you're at the hospital, one of the biggest, and then you're working there, and then out you're so involved. How do you manage your time, and also with your family, being a young who just moving with his wife? How do you manage all these? And tell us about that. And we just want to know, how do you manage your time?
Well, that's a good question. First, I want to shout out to my beautiful wife. It takes a lot of, that's like, hey, time, because when you focus on something a lot, and you have someone that lives with you, so you're in trouble. So yeah, but my wife Deborah, she is very understanding. She knows when I'm busy, when I'm doing something, she let me do. But when the time comes, that's it. You say, no, you have been focusing on this for so long. So, but it is not easy. Sometimes when people see it, as it is out there, it might seem easy. Like, you see 100 something children books available in Anywaa, it might seem easy. But for me, actually, to translate one book, it might take like 1 week, because you don't just translate it and submit it. Okay. So, what I see is the result, and sometimes when I talk to people, buy something for your kid. They think maybe this guy is going crazy. But, or when I say buy something for you, I know the benefit of it. When your child read and know their language, then they will know their roots, and they will always remember where they came from. But if they don't know that, they will mix in into this country and mix in into this culture, and then they will forget their roots. They will forget their language. They will forget their culture, So if you don't want your children to judge you when they grow up and accuse you of not teaching who they are at a young age, just teach them their language and their culture through these books. So it takes a lot of time, but I don't get paid of doing it. I'm just volunteering to translate them. But I want the Anywaa people in Ethiopia to have access to them. And when I ask you to donate, let us purchase this book, buy something on Amazon for me so I could take to Gambela when I go. I'm not selling it there when I go to Ethiopia. It's for free, because our people there, they cannot afford even one book to buy. If I go and sell it to them, they will not buy because they cannot afford. So, but if you help me fundraise for it, I will buy them with your money, and when I go there, I give it to them for free. So that helped them, and also help you here, because you have the book, you can teach your children with it, but your money goes to somewhere in Gambela, and it will give someone a chance, a child opportunity to have those books. So that's That's how I manage my time. It's not easy because I do work in the hospital. I do have my personal life. I do have my wife now. You know? So it is about, making time. Sometimes I don't sleep that much, so.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. Can we clap for him, please? And then I want to shout out the camera crew, Golet Oboya and his team. Golet is at the back there. Can we clap for him? If you are doing a wedding or a baby shower or anything, please reach out to Golet Oboya. Their crew, is very budgetable. So it's less than 2,000, please. So we have to pay them that. So Golet, how much does it cost for your camera crew, like for the whole package, please? Shout out, because out of this room right now, in the next few weeks, they will have baby shower, they will have that coming in, they will have like engagement, whatever. So we want to use your business. How much does this cost?
You have to call me, we have to consultate.
There you go. He doesn't want to share it because every package is coming in a different package. So thank you. Again, and if you want to read more books, you are not only from our very own, we have variety of books here. You can see, please let us support this library. And you can come any day, anytime, and read, borrow a book, buy a book. And also, we're giving back to the community in Rochester. I will bring the attention now to Arden. If you have any question, or if you have written something, or if you have glanced through your book, you don't want your book to go to waste. So feel free, you will be on camera. Please, when you are speaking, stand up so that we can see you on YouTube after a few days. You will be on reel. So yeah, I will start with the leader of Anewaa Youth, if they have anything. Anyone with it. It could be the president of the youth, could be the secretary, could be the treasurer. So there you go. Peter, can we clap for Peter, please?
First off, I want to say thank you to Jacob for taking the time to research, write, and publish this book. I've only read a couple chapters of it, but I've learned so much that I didn't know about our culture, and it's been great. I know Kanyani and I put an age youth. The message me, man, I can't eat. Well, I did give me man, I call up a book. The question.
That's a good question, Peter. Thank you very much. Yeah, when I planned this launch, I wanted the youth to be here, young people, because most of the time the older people, they know about the history, but the younger generation, they don't know that much. So, like you said, this book is for them to read, and I don't want them to feel like, bad, because this book shows us perseverance our people are, how they overcame through many challenges, and they still keep going. So it's kind of like teach young people to be proud. It teach young people to walk with their shoulder up, because our people have done so much to get us where we are today, Even though we went through so many things under these two countries, South Sudan and Ethiopia, they don't want us to be exist as human beings in the face of the earth. Even though that is their plan, we still exist, and we will continue to exist.
Yep.
Because young people like you, young people like us here, we're gonna make sure that our people continue to exist on this earth.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
That's something that the young people will learn from the book. Okay, our great-grandfathers, they went to Asia, they went to to the northern part of Ethiopia. They fought at the Battle of Anywaa. They did so many things. They went to to Korea and fought overseas during World War. So that is something that will make us proud. As a people, we defeated the British. What country? What people fought the British colonials and defeated them? Nobody.
Yep.
but our ancestors, our great-grandfathers were able to do that. So if we know that history, it will make us proud. It makes, it shows us our true identity, and we will be motivated to go and move forward and do great things because we are capable of it. And then you would never know. The first dark, president of the United States, it might be among you guys.
Yep. Can we shout out for that? Can we shout out for that?
That will happen because we, the Luo, we are something.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you. Question is still popping up. If you have a question, you can write it down. You can shout it out in Anywaa. So it's open. We can use Anywaa. We can use the English. If there's another language, Amharic, we can use too, or we can speak in Cameroon too. So we want to make it fun. So the biggest thing for me, Jacob, as everyone is thinking about the next question, you summarize that, Anywaa people, they defeated the British. So this is something that is documented. Why the reason we mention that is because Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that has not been colonized. So because we have to be proud of that, and we are part of that history. And the reason being we have to speak up and loud is because during all those struggles, Anywaa stood the ground. Anywaa stood the ground. Anywaa stick with the government. Anywaa defend their kingdomship. So young people, you have to know that you came from a place that you are proud of. We have so many resources. So yeah, it's still going on. Before I give it to the elders, young people, any question?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yes.
Jacob, I just want to say I'm really proud of you. Like, this is something that is so important to our people. And for you to open up that door, if you're ready to do a volume 2 about diaspora.
Yeah, can you shout out for that? Can you shout out for that?
But my question is, because you're speaking about 3 of the governments in Ethiopia, what would your ideal government of Ethiopia look like?
Oh, Jacob.
Like the ideal government right now, or?
No,
what?
like if you could build the dream government, what would you want it to be? Like, what would the leader look like? Would it be Anywaa people who are represented in that government? Who would you uplift, and empower?
That is a very good question. When I look through, the previous governments in Ethiopia, the Anywaa people always are involved when there is something that is coming for the country. Especially when you look at the wars, the invasion, when the Somalia invaded Ethiopia, when the Eritrean fought the Ethiopia, the Badime, and also when the Italian invaded Ethiopia, when the Ethiopian troops were sent to Korea. So the Anywaa people, they sacrificed in all those wars. They went there, and honestly, most of them, when they go, they will not come back. Because they will fight to the very last. Since, they cannot mix within the community in the northern part. The northern community in Ethiopia, they have light skin. So the enemies know them, that they are Ethiopian military. So they cannot hide. So they have to fight to the very last, and they die at the battle. And physically built, if you read the book, I explained it more in detail. The Anywaa are tall, they're big, they're strong. And mostly they were used to carry the heavy weapons at the front. And during the war, if you want to defeat your enemy, you have to eliminate the big weapons first by, using the long range, weapons or artillery. And most of the Anywaa people died in that way. But when it's come to benefits, we are at the very bottom. And when I started today, I explained why I wrote the book, because we still call names in the country, like we are slave, llama, body, you are monkeys, charcoal, tire, because the car tire is dark. Call us name because we have darker skin. But when it's come to sacrifice, we are the very first. So coming to your question, how would I picture, the legit government? I would want to see a government that represents everyone equally. Whether you're dark skin, light skin, whether you are, from a minority group, majority group, I want equal representation in the government, not just the local, but the federal government. Because now, the previous government either is a Tigrayan, or Oromo, or Amara. Outside of that, I think it was just Alamariam that came. That is not one of those. But all the previous were just these three majority groups in Ethiopia that are rotating around. If not the Amara in control, it's the Oromo. If not the Oromo in control, it's the, So I want Ethiopia that is not ruled by only these three. Why can't we have a prime minister from Gambela?
Yeah.
Why can't we have Anywaa prime minister? We never had any minister of the Anywaa since the foundation of Ethiopia. We never had that. Why can't we have the Anywaa minister? Why can't we have, Mejan minister? Why can't we have Komo or Opo minister? Why can't we have Kunama minister? Why can't we have a minister from the southern part of Ethiopia? Because those are the Nilotics. The Nilotics are not considered as Ethiopians, and they are not given the chance to rule. So I would picture Ethiopia where the leaders are selected based on their qualifications, not just their skin color or the population or the community that they came from.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we try to, the author is getting emotional, okay? So the author is getting emotional. That's why now this is the time to get those questions. So let us pinch him somewhere so that he talk more about, in the book, about all the good things, other the bad things. So I want Jacob to, when he talk about this book, don't overthrow everything. Don't let them read the book too. Okay, what are you leaving them? Okay,
that's a little part of it.
That's a little part of it. Okay. I want Jacob to don't read the whole book. We know the whole book in your brain. So, but now, ask those questions so that we will be able to learn more about the book. I will give it at the back there if we have a question at the back or any shout out at the back there. Jimwan ng ngayon na digin bichani char ko book wala ne book ilakwan ka ba didi kore gumde la chuwa jiu ko mal ka gone nga damano bara nga mal bare lañ ma choda jang dang tawno to ber kijira lañ ma do ka any dang ne jiri the question yep Michael.
Alrighty, I have a question for you, Jacob. So this here, like what you're doing is very groundbreaking. What we're witnessing here is history in the making, for our peoples and stuff. So my question for you is, where do you see our community here in Minnesota, like our community in Minnesota and around the world, where do you see our community in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Kore Pijmar Michael kijara ne dwok danwa be pijo perle kijara girotia ne pijo wok danwa pag beno lo mo chane English chane ke English bo lo danwa. Kore Michael Mereko ne ye minute ke per gina ti Jacoben kore Mereko ne Jacob if future mara rango ki jo munyiri manote 20 bit from now 20 part from now gina ngade beto mara wala leadership mara wala everything in Europe kore rango ni kore pigman be prene du Jacob.
Yeah, that's a good question. When you look at the communities, the other communities, what makes them strong and moving forward is how they stand with their community. Especially you look at the Somali community, very strong community in Minnesota. They teach their kids their language. They're very involved in politics. We have representatives in the White House. That's because they stand up with their community. A lot of businesses, you look at the Jewish community. You look at all the strong communities in the U.S. What makes them strong is how they stand up with their communities. So if you asked me 5, 7, or 3 years ago, I would have different answer. But now, since you asking me now, I would say that if the Anywaa people really wanted a change to our kids, to our neighbors, to the other organization, not only the Anywaa people in the US, even globally, and those Anywaa people in Gambela, we will see a big change if we really make this organization a strong organization. I think that is what I would say. In 5 years, if we supported this organization, despite of the people that are leading it, and give our support, our full support, it will help us in the long run, and also help our country back home.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. The biggest thing, this book is not only talking about everything, the politics, and it's also empowering. We want to empower our community. We want a community that thrives. We want our community to know that this country has everything they need to survive and also thrive. So, and here in this building and here today, the biggest thing for us is to empower anyone. If you have a dream, we are here to support you. If you have a dream that you still questioning where you should go, we are here to support you. We have a community that we acknowledge that they are there to support us. And I want to shout out to our kind of community for everything they do from the beginning until today. So, and this is the biggest thing, you know, without a kind of community, especially the past leadership and the current leadership, we would not be where we are today in Minnesota. So I just want to shout out to all the people who have been, we have the previous Akane leaders who supported this community. Can we shout out for him? We have the president, the previous Akane president, Ato Oron. Can we shout out for him today? He has been through difficult with us. He has sweat with us. He has cried with us, especially in the refugee camp. And also when he was here, his family, he has supported us. And he handed over the new leadership of Akane, which is they're doing really a great thing. You know, we have learned a lot from him. That's why we are so grateful for him to be where we are today. Thank you, Ato Oron, for all you do. Thank you.